In this video, I wanted to talk about the Meds 100 Heads Challenge. It's a challenge created by Ahmed Al-Douri on YouTube. I'm sure you've heard of him, but if not, I'll leave a link to his original video in the description. So the challenge is to draw 100 heads in 10 days. Ahmed made a Pinterest board with 100 reference images to use for the challenge, but I ended up using my own pictures that I found on Pinterest. So I'll leave a link to mine and his Pinterest boards as well. Recently, I felt like my art is very inconsistent, both in terms of my art style and the process that I use to draw. So I thought that by doing this challenge, hopefully at least one of three things would happen. My art skill would improve, my art style would develop, my process for drawing would refine itself. So on the first day, I really felt all over the place. In some of the sketches, I was trying to think about proportions. In other ones, I was trying to exaggerate, and I really felt kind of unfocused. Overall sentiment was panic and feeling like this was the worst idea I'd ever had in my life. You'll notice that on day 2, I did not draw any heads. I had time, but I just didn't make myself sit down and do it. And looking back, I think this was a form of self-sabotage. I think on a deeper level, I was hoping that if I skipped day 2, then I would quit. And then I'd have a good get out clause like, oh, I couldn't do day 2, so oh well, maybe next time. On day 3, I spent way too much time per sketch, which is why I only did 4 this day. I think this was mainly due to a fear of creating bad sketches. I was also scared that I was going to get worse by the end. I really had a lot of stuff going on in my head and couldn't focus and concentrate. So this brings me to the first lesson that I learned during this challenge, which is get out of your head. I really made it harder for myself than it needed to be by stressing out about the quality of each final sketch rather than just enjoying drawing. On day 4, I thought there was no way I was going to finish on time, but I just kept drawing because I didn't want to quit. I ended up splitting the day into 2 sessions of 5 heads each, which I thought was really good because it just cut the workload down throughout the day. So lesson 2 is cut the workload into bite-sized pieces. It's so much easier to draw in small chunks of time throughout the day, and this also avoids burnout. On day 5, I did the first couple of sketches first thing in the morning before I even got out of bed, which felt amazing. I really liked this idea of doing 2 or 3 sketches at a time, just kind of peppered throughout the day. It was far better mentally because I could actually relax a little, but I felt like I wasn't learning anything at this point. On day 6, I took myself down to a coffee shop and I did the first couple of sketches there. Even though the quality of those sketches isn't that good, I felt so much more relaxed with a change of atmosphere, and it kind of just lifted my mood and let me just enjoy drawing. I also set a rough time limit to try to keep the amount of time I was spending per day under control. I found this was really helpful because it was kind of like a visual prompt to wrap things up and move on. I'm so bad for being a perfectionist and polishing the turd, if you will, and I realized that I just needed to get them done and move on, forget about it. So lesson 3 is embrace the suck. At the end of the day, you have to go through the crappy phase to get to the good stuff. Over time, it is going to get better. On day 7, I tried to focus more on the facial features. I also felt like I was getting a lot faster, which was a bit of a relief because at this point, I was having to draw 14 heads a day to finish on time. I felt like I had far less mental resistance and the drawings were less draining. On day 8, I definitely hit a bit of an energy slump, but I was determined to finish because I realized just how close to the end I was. So lesson 4 is set your intention. I wish that before I had started drawing each day, I'd taken a moment to think about, okay, what is it I'm trying to achieve today by doing these sketches? On day 9, I realized that I was really bored of drawing from reference and I felt like it wasn't doing anything for me. I decided to use a partial reference system. So basically I very loosely used the reference and then tried to either build it out from my imagination or use multiple references to kind of pick and choose elements to include. I was a lot more satisfied on this day because I felt like the style of the sketches was a lot more cohesive. So lesson 5 is mix it up. Don't be afraid to adapt the challenge to suit your needs. On day 10, I had so much fun. I was really trying to enjoy and just relax into it. I ended up having a nice workflow of using partial reference and style reference and just kind of glancing back and forth between references as I went. I also tried to use a lot more imagination on the last day. I was a lot more relaxed, which was probably mostly due to the fact that it was the last day of the challenge and I knew I was going to get my life back. But yeah, I really enjoyed this day and I felt like I had entered the elusive flow state. So lesson 6 is believe in yourself. I really didn't think that I was going to be able to finish this challenge because I always tell myself that I never finish anything and I'm a quitter. But I decided this time to tell myself that I was going to finish it no matter what. And I'm really trying hard to talk to myself in a much more positive and supportive way. In terms of process, I realized that I really don't enjoy working directly from reference. I used to be very reliant on reference and I had to start with a reference and I couldn't stray from it. It took me a lot of time and effort to break out of that and switch to imaginative drawing. So going back to starting with reference kind of felt like a step back for me, which was a bit unnerving. I used other people's art as a reference for a couple of these sketches. I think this made it easier because the artist has already decided which elements they think are important to the image, whereas when you're using a reference image there's a lot of noise that you almost have to sift through and pick and choose yourself what you think is important to include. I thought that during this challenge I was going to learn to draw better, but that didn't really happen. To be honest, I don't see a massive improvement skill-wise between day 1 and 10, but mentally it was a completely different story. On day 1, I felt like the sketches were good, but I was absolutely mentally exhausted at the end of it. But day 10 was so much fun and drawing felt easy. The only way I can think to describe this is that I got over myself and got out of my own way. There are faces in this 100 that I'm quite embarrassed about, but it's okay. Like, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad artist. It just means that I did a couple of bad sketches. I'm really pleased that I did this challenge because I learned that I can be disciplined. I learned that I can set my mind to do something and actually do it. And I also realized the kind of process that I like to use. I hope this video has been of use to someone. Let me know if you're thinking of doing the challenge or if you've already done the challenge. Let me know if you've got any other tips for people who are thinking about doing it. I'm excited to do some more art challenges on this channel, so let me know if there's any others that you've heard of that you think I should do. That's it for this video. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week and I'll see you next time. Bye!